how is it possible that my daughter chooses drugs over everything in her life, including her kids? I'm heartbroken for her. We set boundaries regarding our grandkids, and now she's asking us to just take them.
Oh, Lord. I spent 3 years in community mental health in Denver, working at a place called Arapahoe Douglas Mental Health. And so many of the cases that I worked on were what we call kinship adoptions, which is when the grandparents adopt the kids or someone. It's almost always grandparents. And it's almost always because either the person's incarcerated or the person is struggling with addiction and alcoholism. So, first part of the question, let's answer that. How is it possible that my daughter chooses drugs over everything in her life? So, your daughter's an addict. And here's the thing, you'll never get it because you're not. Remember back earlier when I said normal people wake up and think, oh, I've got responsibilities, I got shit to do, I got to take care of my kids, got to, get my act together. And an alcoholic and an addict may think those things, but it just doesn't take very much for them to get derailed or just to not even bother. So that's what's going on with your daughter, and it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. It's completely her responsibility. Your responsibility is to hold her accountable and set boundaries with her. So, heartbroken. Absolutely no questions asked. I would be too. There's a lot of work that you need to do there because it's super traumatic and super overwhelming to have this situation. We set boundaries regarding our grandkids, and now she's asking us to take them. So here's what I would say. If you can, take them, because leaving them with her is just a terrible idea. And I would contact interventionists. I would contact the police. I would contact a lawyer, and I would say, what can we do? If you lived in the state of Florida, we put you on a Marchman Act, and we throw your butt into treatment, and we make you stay. You wouldn't have an option, and we can cycle it every 30 days. And I've worked those cases, and I think, I have to be honest, I think that's awesome. Because I hate when people die, and they die because people are like, well, they went into the ER overdosing, and 8 hours later they were kicked back out, and I'm like, how did they not put them in a hold? And they just don't, and it makes me sick to my stomach. So I really wish we had tighter rules and tighter regulations surrounding, if you walk into a hospital overdosed on something, or trying to kill yourself, I think you should be signed up for a mandatory 7-day stay where you're evaluated and probably passed on to the next level. I just think that's how it should be, because those people end up dying. And so more power to the grandparents, take the kids, and then also turn around and get her some help, because she needs it desperately. She doesn't know it, and she's going to fight you tooth and nail. Remember the one before? Oh, she always has a reason. Yeah, nobody's like, oh, great, I get to go to treatment. This will be so much fun. They fight it tooth and nail, but they're alive. And alive is better than dead. And in this day and age, man, that's what we're talking about. I would tell you, when I got sober in 1991, the advent of people going back out and dying was so minuscule. It happened, but nowadays it's a daily occurrence. And it's terrifying. It's sickening. It just makes me so sad and scared. And you and I have talked about this. We have personal friends that are dead that we had dinner with a month ago. And it's like, we have to help these people, and the old school methodology of, well, we're just going to wait for them to hit bottom. Okay, then we might as well just go ahead and buy them a burial plot, because that's what bottom's going to look like for this person. We have to step in. So that's my answer. Sorry about the preaching and the rant, but
no, it's heartbreaking just reading it, because this is someone that that we all know is has given completely into their addiction. And for someone I don't know this, but I would assume in the right mind without addiction, they wouldn't just hand their kids over to mom and dad. But this is someone that has some, it's probably best for them, because my addiction is beating me up considerably. And I always talk about, I don't have kids, and I was in a treatment center, my last one. And I remember this guy would always have to check in and hey, tell us about you. And this 40-year-old, came into community group and said, I love my kids more than anything in life. And the counselor in the community group says, that's not true, because you wouldn't be here. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, you love drugs and alcohol a lot more than your kids, or else you would not be here. And I remember this guy getting so upset by the mere mention. And, and to see the guy's growth, and I know him, he's still sober to this day. We always make fun of him, but he'll be the first one like, yeah, I was upset to hear it, in public air in front of others. But yeah, it's when you have a love, and this is a prime example. I would assume there's nothing. I love my mom and dad, and they love me more than, but for someone just to be like, here, take a mom and dad. I know, my addiction is, and you have to get to a point where you have, you have to realize drugs and alcohol is your number one priority in life. It's your number one love, and it's heartbreaking. And this is what addiction is. You get someone sober and you give them that same, they love their kids, and it's a sickness. It's a disease. And that's what I love about families. We talked about reality versus, they don't trust them anymore. They don't understand how they can just be handing over their kids. This is what addiction, it breaks my heart. We see it each and every day. So
yeah, this is addiction. This is the reality of our lives. This is the reality of the work, our chosen profession. And it's terrifying, and it's sad, and it's horrible. But that's why we do what we do, right? Is because we want to intervene, and we want to help. We want to give people options, and help them. But when here's the other thing I always tell, those last two questions, were basically about someone who's actively using, but making decisions. And I want to be super clear with you. Somebody who's actively using isn't in their right mind to make decisions about, I don't care who they are, what they are. It doesn't matter to me. We don't let them make those choices because they're not capable of making those choices. Who gives up their kids? I'm sorry. Well, I get it, because they're someone who's struggling with addiction. And I understand that. I get it. So let's get her help. Let's not just take the kids. Let's get mom help, and turn that corner. And
yeah, I see it as a cry for help. I see some willingness that this woman is like, I know my kids are not safe, so I'm going to give them to mom and dad freely. Or this could have been a drunk moment like we all have, and I wake up the next morning and be like, I never said that, Mom. I don't know what you're talking, But I hope it's not. But it's also, for me, what I read in that email was a cry for help from the daughter. I think the daughter really wants a new way of life. And I think, sometimes families need to realize, the cries don't always say, hey, mom and dad, I need help. Can you send me to treatment? Sometimes it's these subtle cries for help that you and I just can hear like a dog whistle, but families can't. And so what I encourage everyone of families is find someone, get outside of the family circle and get some help, i.e. a Kevin Petersen, because you don't know reality versus delusion. It's impossible for families.
Yep.
I ran circles around my mom and dad. And I'm making living amends for all the delusion that I fed them. But addiction is powerful. And then when you're in the heart of it, we don't truly mean, but all we're thinking about is getting that next fix. That's all we think about.
Yeah, no kidding. And we're sneaky and manipulative and that's because and by the way, those are called survival skills. The funny part is you get somebody sober, and those turn out to be huge assets for business people, because they're like, my God, you're creative. How did you come up with that? Well,
Yeah. You're speaking my language. You got an addict or alcoholic, and they say, I'm not real creative. I say BS, because if you lived as a true addict or alcoholic, you've gotten very creative on a number of things. The law, got creative with the law, got creative getting your fix, got creative with mom, So
there's a guy I watch every once in a while on TikTok who's like a business guy, and he's saying, who I hire for salespeople? sober drug addicts. They don't take no for an answer. They know how to do numbers in their head. They're fast. They have all the answers. they're amazing, and they're dying for a second chance. And I was like, yeah. And there's another guy I really like on TikTok. It's called Well and Septic Life. I think he's really funny. He's in North Carolina. Owns a septic company, and he's like, I want to be really direct with you. I hire felons. You know why? They're desperate for work, and they're smart, they're skilled, they're capable, and they're loyal. And they are so like, oh, and he goes, and I pay well. It's a good job. And when I saw that, he had my respect instantly. He's like, I hire these people because they've been down that road, they've turned it around, and they want out. And I'll help them. I'll help them get a car. I'll help them find a place to live. I'll help them. And even if they burn me, I won't hate them. I may have to let them go or suspend them, but I'll still help them if they're willing to get help. That's what we do, so I get it.
ChronicHope.us, all kinds of free resources. There's kind of trainings and so forth like that. This is the highlight of my week is every Monday evening getting to spend time with old Kevin Petersen. But this is, I love it. Just reading the emails and just, sometimes I probably say this every week. You get cut in the mold, and then to hear families emailing desperate about delusion and reality. It just takes me back. I'm like, oh my God, like I have to remind myself they can't see those signs and they don't hear the cries and they don't know I was in an ER on last Tuesday morning, for someone that OD'd on fentanyl, and came, we're talking minutes, from death. And I'm sitting in the room and the drug test came out, all clean. And I'm like, there's no way. And, I said, there's gotta be synthetic drugs. And this doctor in the ER is like, well, there'll be no way of telling. I was like, well, there's tests that you can do. No, I've never heard of that. And I was like, well, what about a fentanyl test? Oh, you can't do that, and I was like, good Lord. And I had the wife or the girlfriend, the fiance, and the mom flew in from Jacksonville. They're on vacation. And this is another thing, mom and dad, dad always on call, jumped on a plane, boom, met them. That's just what they're accustomed to. My mom and dad went through it all the time. But the doctors, the lack of information. And it turns out that he made it through. He got out on Friday morning. And I said, I never left his side. And I said, what'd you use? And he said, I thought it was something. Well, it turned out it was all synthetic drugs. He just got sold a bad batch or whatever, laced with fentanyl. And, and then I get a call on Sunday. He get out of the ER on Friday morning. I get a call on Sunday saying, I fucked up again. I used. And I said, well, what'd you use? Well, I went back to the same dealer. I said, are you in the ER this time? He said, no. I said, well, hey, you reached out. I'm proud of you, but good God. That's the definition of insanity, but also addiction in its purest form.
Yeah, that's just straight addiction,
So, well, truly a pleasure. Let's do this each and every week, Kevin. You're making a difference, and let's just keep doing it. And families keep sending. If you want to do it live, comments, we'll reply. Even if this is a replay, put it in the comments. But if you want, you reach out to me directly on social media. Send them DMs. I've learned now to check my DMs on social media, which is amazing because I wasn't checking. And then lo and behold, there's all these family mattered. So now I check DMs. So DM me.
I feel that's awesome, man. This is a highlight of my week. It's a pleasure. It's great to spend time with you.
Well, awesome. Until next week.
Later.